Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to this online lender summit, helping lenders lift leaders in a challenged economy. This special webinar is brought to you by AFDigital, a multinational, multi-cloud Salesforce Gold consulting partner, and Salesforce, the world's #1 CRM. This launch hour is going to be an insightful one with speakers from both AFDigital and Salesforce sharing very helpful tips in this time of crisis. My name is Karen. I'll be your moderator for today. So let's get started. And let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is a true example of a woman empowered in the business world. Please welcome the founding director of Salesforce's Gold Consulting partner, AFDigital, Pauline Pangan.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, Karen. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to have you for today's webinar. I remember the exact date when my perception about COVID changed from it's just the flu, people should stop fear-mongering, to this threat is very real and prepare for the absolute worst case scenario. It was the day of the canceled Grand Prix, Friday the 13th. Believe me, even the weather eerily changed that day. That very same week, we had a board meeting and we created a solid BCP plan to ensure not just the survival of the business, but to ensure that the business thrives, even with the worst pandemic our lifetime has ever seen. When you are not in survival mode, you have the ability to thrive. When you are thriving, you see opportunities to lift others. In the business world, we lift leaders so they will be in a position to help others too. That is what we are here to talk about, helping lenders lift leaders in a challenged economy. I come across a lot of businesses that's been heavily impacted, so I'd like us to acknowledge the silver lining in the lenders industry. You're not at a huge risk to lose your business. 90% of Australian businesses have already been impacted even before the shutdown. The second one is the world is desperate for money right now, and that is your offer. Well, next to toilet paper, they are desperate for money. And lastly, the surge in demand for money will force your business to go through digital transformation. If you can see here, this photo here, I laughed at it, but I see it becoming true and true every day. I'd like to start with sharing with you the 4-step plan that we created and consistently been executing since the COVID started. Number 1 is communicate to your stakeholders and business partners and make sure that you have a solid BCP in place. You cannot give from an empty cup. As business leaders, we have a moral obligation to have a solid business continuity in place so we can ensure that we can continue to employ people and serve our customers and community. In times of crisis, we would need to make a lot of difficult decisions, but you would need to be decisive and execute flawlessly once that plan is in place. That includes absolute clarity in the actions you need to take. Then you need to communicate with your staff and share with them the plan and changes with clarity, confidence, and empathy. You need them more than ever. I told my team when we addressed them for the first time with the changes in the business that before Corona, the business is working towards business growth. But now we're working for each other. We're working hard for each other. And then to your customers, assure them that you are committed more than ever in providing them with the best service given the current climate. You need to communicate consistently the changes in the business that impacts them. And then to your community, share your knowledge or expertise. This is an opportunity to establish not just thought leadership, but to show your heart to serve as a business. We are all swimming every day in the unknowns, and no one knows how things will change tomorrow. Every certain information provides comfort because they are easier to deal with. Share what you know, and as you communicate consistently with clarity and empathy, have the mindset that we are not just in this together, but we are stronger together. If you have that in your mind, then it will naturally exude from your tone. And then seek aid. Every little help helps. I constantly peruse any government grants available for business owners, for employees, even global tech giants are giving grants and industry grants. So I have put here all of the ones that I found for small business owners. So as you can see here, they even have for each of the state. I know that Victoria is giving grants for companies who wants to put their business online. I think they're giving like $10,000, and they're also giving like $2,000 for training your team. There's also the JobKeeper payment, which is you need to put your interest now, and then they will call you to give you more details about that. So don't miss out on those. And of course, like Google is giving also some ad credits to small businesses. Every little help helps. So if you have been using Google, it's good to take advantage of these free ads, as well as Facebook as well. And Salesforce, of course, is giving free access to Social Studio. I mentioned earlier that we need to communicate consistently, and Social Studio is the best tool for that. Later on, Zeke, one of our masters in Social Studio, will show you how you could use Social Studio to communicate, not just in terms of sales and not just by analytics, but also the way you could respond to your customers as quickly as possible. At AFDigital, we also want to give you a free service, which is our Social Studio COVID package. This is valued at $2,500, no strings attached. This is all we give, like to make sure that you activate the Social Studio license that Salesforce is giving you. We are also giving free training for the whole month of April. You will hear from our masters, and these people are absolute industry veterans in the different clouds: Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, and Social Studio. We're also giving you free advice with our webinars to help you guys in terms of this crisis. We've got a podcast as well that's available on Spotify and Apple. The next thing we need to do is adapt. No one is exempted from the crisis, right? We need to be able to brace for impact and prepare for the absolute worst. You need to think about the customers defaulting on payment, calculate and forecast your threshold. You also need to think about customers that are probably eligible but hesitating to take loans right now. Large swaths of Australians are about to become non-standard risk, and lenders are going to be able to have to roll with that for years to come. As you can see here, there are a lot of changing policies as well from insurance or banks. And so it's really important you're more disciplined in terms of your balance sheet. You need to manage your expenses as a business on a weekly basis so that you're able to stretch and extend your runway as long as you can. And then thrive, right? This is an amazing opportunity for us to really reimagine the best way that we could serve our customers. I believe that every crisis creates immense opportunities. Go back to the drawing board, reimagine the future of lenders. Later on, Cam will show you the incredible power of technology in transforming the way you can service your customers. I'm really excited about that as well. And I dare say the future is now, right? For this webinar, I want to talk to you through the 4 building blocks of businesses to help you align in terms of your priorities. So we'll start with customer segments, customer relationships, channels, and key partners. So for customer segments, the sad reality is like there are a lot of people who who lost their jobs, and they would still need personal loans, car loans, and mortgage loans. Their small businesses are figuring out ways to retain their employees and how they can pay them, and it's really heavily dependent on cash flow. So your offer would be very, very crucial to the extension of their business. So it's an opportunity for you guys to be creative in the way that you could tailor your offer to their needs. You could take advantage of this time now to really build that relationship with them, even if they're not eligible now, but the situation will change and they could be a customer in the future. So I'd like to take this opportunity to really, focus in terms of the value of data. As you can see here, we've got two companies here who are not rich when it comes to revenue, but they have incredible data, and that really increased the value of the business to $1 billion business. And then there's this Wharton student about 4 years ago who proved that it is more accurate to value a company using a new model called customer lifetime value modeling, which measures how many customers you have, what their lifetime value is, and allows you to predict the future revenues more accurately. In the past, well, even today, we would measure an organization's value based on its assets and debts, often using historical revenue or EBITDA, in combination with a multiplier for rough valuations. Now with this new model, we also take into account customer lifetime value to make the model more accurate. This is what the students from Wharton have proved, looking historically at companies that were valued by analysts using the model. I'm going to gloss over some of these slides. I just want you to get the idea and rethink like how you can take advantage of the opportunity now to really start getting and building that relationship with your customers by collecting some data. So how do you gather first-party data? You don't start the journey from when they become a customer. You start from the first time they see you. This is how you like to think about the process of knowing your customer. It starts with you thinking you know them, but having no idea who they individually are. Maybe you know a general demographic or location. Then with your amazing marketing, these people will talk to you on social media or visit your website, and then they become seen. But they haven't yet given you permission to talk to them. So you need to get them to subscribe by giving them some value. It may not be your service or your loan, but the advice that you can give them. And then they will trust you enough for them to be able to give you access to subscribe to your newsletters, and then you can start building that relationship with them. And then we measure the customer lifetime value. Again, I'm going to gloss over some of these slides. We're going to give you a copy of these slides, and we're also going to do another webinar in terms of how you can really create, build more data and create that value in your business. But I'd like to stress that it's really important that when you communicate to your customers, you're thinking about relevance, because that equates to revenue. Now let's talk about one of the 4 building blocks, which is channels. It's now more than ever that you really need to make sure that you are online. Like you need to, if you are not online right now and able to give your customers the ability to transact online, that should be your key priorities. I'd like to show you what the CEO said, that they have been wanting to run our mortgage advisors and video conferencing, and they have been told that it could take up to 12 months to activate. Because of crisis, they were able to do that in 3 days. That's really the value of technology, and that's really the value of the crisis right now. I mentioned to you earlier that this will really accelerate the transformation of your business digitally. One thing we need to talk about here as well is you need to make sure that you understand the dramatic effect on the behavior, the shifting behavior of our customers right now, that they would prefer to socially distance from you and really want to just connect with you digitally. So you need to be prepared for that, not just during this crisis, but even post-crisis. You also need to look at e-commerce, omni-channel customer service, and again, Zeke will show you how that works later, even social selling and taking advantage of influencers in your industry. Less about the acquisition at this point. It's really building and looking at the customer life cycle and building that strong relationship with them. This is easier to do now because of the best of breed available technology, right? The only thing you need to do is make that decision to make that investment and be able to have the right strategy in place. And we're happy to guide you in terms of that strategy. And then for channels, like you really think about the best way that you can engage with them, even when you're sleeping, even when your employees are not working, even when your employees are stood down. And that's really the power of technology and marketing automation. So this is an example of a very simple journey that you can do. You can provide a dynamic offer, and if they did not open, you can send them a reminder SMS. And then if they didn't open that, you can send them advertising as well. But if they accepted the offer, you could go through suppression. Suppression is really good right now for those people that you cannot service, just for empathy as well. So we need to practice very responsible marketing as well. I just want to show you how this could look like in terms of the way that you as a team connect in terms of the different channels. So you've got all of your teams in here, and these are the ways that you communicate with your customers. And these are the systems that you have in place. In order for you to be able to build a single view of your customer, you really need to have all of that data in one place and break down the organizational silos and make sure that everyone is aware in terms of where you're at in terms of the customers, all of the communication that you have with them. So I talked about the post world after everything kind of like settles down. Winning companies behave differently. Companies that ranked among the eventual winners by contrast moved deliberately to capture opportunities before the recession. And these are the things that they did. Number one, cost management to refuel the growth engine for the next stage of business. You need to look at boosting commercial growth, really investing in research and development now. So the good thing about Social Studio, it will really give you amazing analytics in terms of where the industry is headed, and that's free for the next 3 months. And then pointing the sales team to top priorities and focusing in terms of increasing the customer lifetime value instead of focusing on expensive acquisition. And lastly, really doubling down and improving the customer experience, making it easier in terms of the way that customers will interact with you and investing in digital capabilities. So this is just an example in terms of how you want to position your investment. You look at your strategic position. Those who are winning companies really play in the offense, like looking at seizing the opportunities for them to position themselves well. And it's possible for you to thrive even in this crisis that we're all facing. And lastly, for your key partners, we are passionately devoted to provide you guidance, technology strategy, and help you in terms of augmenting your team. I have provided all of the links here of everything that I shared with you, so you could reference them. They are a great resource for you. And thank you. If you want a copy of the deck, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to get the free service for Social Studio, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Karen, over to you.
Driven and resourceful, our next speaker is an account executive for financial services at Salesforce, Camilla Frank. Yes, Camilla.
So, hi everyone. Firstly, a massive thank you for taking the time today to join us for this webinar. And also a huge thank you to Zeke and Pauline for providing us context to what are completely unprecedented times at the moment. I'm going to take you through a customer journey, which is going to do a few things. So firstly, to show you how you're going to be able to retain your existing customers whilst also reducing the cost to serve through thoughtful journeys and really understanding and leading with empathy. Secondly, how can we do this and save you money on things like digital advertising through the use of suppression and the ways to leverage this? And thirdly, really, how can we assist in acquiring new customers during this time? And how do we find those customers? And finally, what other revenue streams could we open up for your business to help through this time through using your data? Throughout this presentation, I'll call out the low end and average percentage increases or decreases that we see throughout the customer journey. So to begin with, we want to ensure that we are saving on our digital ad spend. So the first thing we want to do is suppress all of our existing customers from advertising unless they meet the requirement for an upsell or cross-sell offering. So this is drastically going to decrease your advertising spend, and at the same time, we want to ensure that we have thoughtful nurture and retention journeys running in the background through more traditional means and lower cost to serve options such as email, push, or in-app if you have an application, as well as SMS. To do this, we really want to do all of this. We really want to have a deep understanding of what industries are declining and what are the fastest growing categories. So this will really help us refine what our target market is going forward. So for example, with business loan lenders, this provides you huge insight into what business is going to need further empathy and support through this time, but also what are emerging businesses and how can we pivot your strategy and your acquisition efforts to take full advantage of that. For personal lenders or for mortgages, this is where you want to understand who out of your existing customers are essential in retaining for long-term growth, but also in our prospecting efforts, which audiences do we suppress and which efforts do we go big on? One of my colleagues has been working with a number of home builder companies as an example, and they're actively suppressing all of those that are in highly affected job areas, such as retail, hospitality, and travel, to save in those areas as well. Firstly, by doing this, we're obviously leading with empathy and not targeting people that are in those highly affected areas. And we're also saving drastically on our ad spend. The next thing we want to do is really do some more research and map for that intent. So we can do this by leveraging your own data, social listening, as Zeke just showed us earlier, where we can break into this from a demographical perspective, location, etc. But also by using your second-party data to really map that intent and refine your go-to-market strategy around this. I'm going to take you through how we can do this through a customer journey. I realize we have a number of different businesses on the line, but for the purposes of the demonstration, I've chosen to do it through the home loan category. But throughout this, you'll see how this ties into other lending verticals and how you can leverage this as well. To set the scene, I'll be using a fictitious brand called Cumulus. And now that Cumulus has done all of its research across social listening, it's really well informed about the market and they're happy to put money behind paid advertising. So as Zeke showed you prior, we can do a whole lot of this through social listening. So really understanding where those interests are within the market, who's still speaking about that, what our competitors are doing within market, and we can break that down from a demographical perspective as well, and really understand from a location and demographical perspective where those customers are. And that's how we're going to meet our friend here, Rachel. So Rachel owns her own home. She's looking for ways to save during these challenging times. And she's constantly scrolling through Instagram for the best skincare tips and ways to keep herself busy during a time of social distancing. She earns roughly 120K per annum. So Rachel, like most other people, has been doing her research in terms of how can she save. And she came across how you can lower your home loan repayments or refinance, the refinancing options there. She has a bit of a scroll through and she decided to jump onto domain.com.au and have a look at the mortgage calculator. So right here, this is really where it's going to kick off Cumulus' acquisition journey with Rachel. And they're going to set up a targeted campaign across Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And we're going to start targeting Rachel from even an anonymous state. So she's scrolling through Instagram and she sees an Instagram ad that really sparks her attention as it's really relevant to her at this time. She reads through the benefits, but she continues to scroll through Instagram as she's just chilling on the couch in the evening. The next day, as she sits down to work from her home desk to begin her day, she checks out news.com.au's money page and sees a Cumulus banner ad about how to save today with refinancing with a Cumulus home loan. And this time, Rachel decides to click through and comes onto the website. So we know that companies spend a lot of money on digital advertising, so it's really important that you're making the most of it when someone does hit your website. So with that in mind, Rachel begins moving through the website, seeing what Cumulus is all about, and we can begin to collect all that unknown device data and begin mapping her intent based on her interactions. She lands on the mortgage page, does a bit of reading, but then she goes to abandon her session. And as she goes to close that window, the engine recognizes that she's about to abandon the session and serves her a pop-up to try and capture her prior to falling off. This time, Rachel still goes ahead with closing off that website prior to providing her details, which brings us up to, that consideration phase. So as we still don't know who Rachel is targeted again on Facebook to register her interest. We want to ensure that it's for the product that she's interested in. And because Rachel is logged into Facebook, all of her details are auto-populated, which leaves no room for typos and a lot less room for drop-off. We're really taking into consideration here all the interactions that we've had with Rachel so far. We're simplifying the product offering and brand message to ensure consistency throughout of what she's already seen and done. And what that does is it triggers off an acquisition journey. And now that we have Rachel's details, we can really start to market to her in a lot more traditional means. So this is Journey Builder, and this is where you would orchestrate all of your customer journeys, be it marketing, service, employee communications. It's a really simple drag and drop tool which has clicks, not code. We actually almost gamify our solution so that anyone can easily leverage the tool. And this enables your customers to choose their own paths of engagement, really tied with that dynamic email content. So this automatically pushes an email through to Rachel, talking about the home loan offer just for her and how she can save with that home loan rate. But like Rachel, like the rest of us, is going to do a fair amount of research. She's going to really want to make sure that this is the right offering for her, and she will do exactly what the rest of us would do and jump straight into Google. And she begins a search, and she might start searching things like best mortgage refinancing options, low interest home loans, and best home loans. And the point of this is, if we didn't know and have that single view of Rachel that we do, she would likely be served with one of the following competitor ads. However, because we do know who Rachel is and we have that two-way flow in and out of our platforms, the next time that Rachel Googles any of Cumulus's keywords, we can automatically place a higher bid on Google to ensure we appear in the top search results. So this typically delivers a 12% increase in customer acquisition. Additionally, we are really optimizing the way that Cumulus are spending their advertising money by paying the right price for the right customer and really cutting through the competition when it counts. So this is incredibly important at the moment, especially during these times, as businesses such as yourselves cannot afford to pay for every click. And we therefore want to ensure that when we do pay for it, that it's for the right customer. So Rachel clicks through onto the home loan page, and she's met with a personalised home loan based on her recent interactions. She decides to start going through the home loan application process, filling in all her details, and she's moving fairly swiftly through this process. And she gets up to the finances page, but then wait, her mum gives her a call. And because of social distancing, she hasn't seen her mum for a few weeks. So she answers the call and spends the next hour or so catching up with her mum and doesn't complete her application. As there's been such a high lag time on her application, what we've done here is set up an abandoned application journey that's triggered to make sure that we follow up with her proactively. So an hour later, we follow up with an email saying, Rachel, we've saved up your application, making it as easy as possible for Rachel to get back on track with that. However, a day passes and she hasn't done anything. So potentially we want to follow up with an SMS saying, Tom here from Cumulus, we notice you started your application, here's a link to finish it. And we really want to make sure that we do this because she is in our ICP. We want to make sure that we're really leveraging all of those leads as much as possible, especially during these unprecedented times. Now, in the case that Rachel doesn't respond to either of these, we can automatically then send a lead through to the sales team to have an abandoned application action as soon as possible. The best thing about this as well is the customer service team will receive that new case, and prior to even reaching out to Rachel, they can see all the details as to where she is within that process. So now that Rachel has spoken to Tim and he was able to humanize that experience and really reiterate to her the benefits of a refinanced home loan, she is happy to jump back onto her laptop and complete her application. As she jumps onto her desktop, she Googles Cumulus, and the paid advertisement link is hidden, and she comes across the first organic link. So this is just another way that we can optimize your advertising spend by saving 15% on that through suppression. So now Rachel's gone through the process. She's been very lucky. She's been approved for a home loan and she's accepted that. And there was a number of different journeys that happened in the background there. However, if Rachel hadn't been approved for a variety of reasons, or maybe her industry has now been one of those industries that have been affected hugely, or potentially she didn't accept, we want to make sure that we trigger off a couple of different journeys. So firstly, Cumulus can start nurturing their non-approved customers that may not have been approved for a number of reasons, but they feel long-term could become a customer. And this will obviously, when that economy turns back around after this, by nurturing a long-term, Cumulus will stay top of mind, and that can really increase your lead conversion. Alternatively, if she had been approved, this is ways that we can move her through that acceptance process with a really lean team. But as I mentioned, Rachel has been approved, and now that she is a customer of Cumulus, we want to ensure that we start contacting her on her preferred channel with really relevant information. And that's how we're going to start to increase our retention rates and lower our unsubscribes. So this email is completely interactive, and it's going to capture all of her details and information in real time. It's now more than ever so important to be communicating with your customers the way they want to be communicated with, and with offers that are relevant. We need to ensure we're driving obviously these strategies to increase the retention, but also be really conscious and lead with empathy in terms of what's happening within the world. Also, by asking all of these details in terms of what she be using these offerings for, we can also start to look to monetize our data and on-sell to other Salesforce customers. For this example, she's interested in car loans and potentially car sales of Volkswagen in a secure and compliant manner. For personal loans, this could be on-sold to other providers as well. So given she is into car loans, we're going to put her into a car loan journey, and after nurturing her for some time, potentially she's going to take that up, and we've increased her customer lifetime value with us. So now this is where I'm going to end the story with Rachel. Obviously, there would have been plenty more engagements with Rachel. There could have been journeys to keep her up to date on her application progressing, onboarding journeys, retention journeys, and just general nurture journeys throughout that. However, for the purpose of this call, I'm going to leave it there, and we're going to move on to the analytics. So as you can imagine, with all of this data we're going to have collected, we need to make it as easy as possible for you to visualize and take action-based insights on all of that. These are just a couple of the ways in terms of how we can start to break down your data and really understand where you need to be putting your money to drive further revenue. So as I said, just a couple of different ways, really having a look at what the marketing performance by channel is, what the overall revenue is, and really breaking that down again by business unit, by devices, by programmatic and display as well. There I'm going to say thank you very much, and I'm going to pass back on to Karen.
All right, thank you, Cam. Wow, that hour went by a little quickly, but as promised, we would like to answer a few of the questions. I have one here. I am looking for other recorded presentations on reporting. Do you have these? Yes, we do. And I am going to show you later how to access some of AFDigital's previous recordings or previous webinars. Any other questions? Or key takeaways? We also would love to know what you learned during this session.
Awesome. What we'll do following this as well is we'll definitely send out a copy of the recording so that you can reference this at any point in time. For those that I reached out directly to set up, to invite to this, or you were reached out to by either Miles, Rob Helliston, Hugh Allerton, Shanae, or Mitch Jacobs, I'm aligned with those reps. So I will reach out to you individually after this and get your key takeaways and really see how we can assist you guys moving forward. But also don't forget about the great social offering that we have. So we have free Social Studio Professional available to businesses for 3 months. And we also have access to Quip, which is our online collaboration tool to really be able to facilitate that work from home as you guys transition into that. But if you feel there's any way that either Salesforce or AFD can assist, please let me know or reach out to Pauline directly as well. Sorry, just Pauline, there was a couple other questions that have just popped through. Michael, you asked whether or not you could have a copy of the fastest growing and most declining industries. Certainly, I will reach out to you afterwards and send that through to you. And then Craig, obviously, also you also asked about the journey planning, and again, I'll reach out to you on that and how we can help with that piece also. There was one more, sorry. We had a question saying, how can lenders find ROI in marketing automation? Do you want to answer that, Pauline, or would you like me to answer it?
Go ahead, Cam. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So there's a number of ways with marketing automation that you can find ROI. So firstly, obviously, we talked through a number of different strategies in terms of lowering the cost to serve, setting up those journeys, being able to set them up once, and being able to have that, running in the background on a lean team. So it's really enterprise technology from that perspective. Suppression is a huge piece within there, and you saw Harry use that throughout that entire theme, and really being really conscious with where your advertising spend is throughout that. Also the long-term nurturing. I mean, COVID has thrust us into a completely new reality, but there's a lot of opportunity that's going to come out from the rebound of this as well. So being able to, have those nurture journeys, but remain top of mind with your clients, and ultimately that's going to have that rebound effect at a later stage as well. So those are just some of the areas, but really lowering the cost to serve and increasing conversions long term.
Okay, I think we've covered all the questions, so you can follow us at AFDigital. And we also have a weekly podcast every Sundays called The Modernization. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, and Google, or Apple Podcast and Google Podcast. And you can also look for updates at afdigital.com. We want to thank everyone who attended this webinar. Special thanks to Cam and Pauline for joining us. And again, this is Helping Lenders Lift Leaders in a Challenged Economy, a webinar by AFDigital and Salesforce. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Bye.